Hi, my name is Alicia, and my God is always there. At 4 days old, my family was told that I had a heart murmur, and that was the first time that I was sent to see my cardiologist. And later I was diagnosed with ventricular septal defect, which causes a hole between the ventricles in your heart, pulmonary stenosis, which they've had to replace my pulmonary valve for 3 times, and also double outlet right ventricle, which means that my aorta was on the wrong side of my heart. So my childhood was spent a lot of time in the hospital, having 3 open heart surgeries over a span of 13 years. I've had 2 defibrillator placements, and also countless other heart caths for my heart. And many times I asked God, like, why did you give me all this stuff to deal with? It's not really easy to deal with. But he's always made himself known and told me that, you know, there's a bigger purpose for all this. So, you know, I try to find good in it. So, anyway, throughout my life, he's also made himself evident in other situations. I remember when I was 15 years old and my grandpa was in the hospital. I remember when I was 15 and my grandpa was in the hospital, and I just didn't know what to do. So I looked to my Bible and I just started reading through all the Psalms that I could. And I just prayed that God would surround his angels around my grandpa and help him not to feel any pain and just to make it through the night. And the funny thing is the next morning, my mom went to go visit him, and my grandma was probably there too. And he said, I couldn't sleep last night. There were so many people in my room. And I knew then that God had answered not only my prayers, but those of everyone else in my family that was praying the same thing the night before. So that was another time where I knew that God was making himself known to me. And there have been other times. I met my husband in 2008, and we dated for a very short time before we ended up pregnant. And then shortly after that we got married. And then 10 days after we got married, we ended up losing that pregnancy. And it just felt like my world came crashing down, and I didn't know if I could go on after that. But God kept telling me that everything would work out, and that he was there, and that something good would come from it. So I just had to keep trusting him on that. And then 2009, my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and we ended up having our second miscarriage shortly after that. And again, I was asking God, why do you keep throwing all this stuff at me? Like, I don't feel strong enough to be able to take on everything that's coming my way. But he continued to make himself known, and I just kept holding on to my faith that everything would be okay. In 2010, I ended up pregnant again, and this time I was blessed with our amazing son, Daniel, who will be 5 in April, and he's the best boy. God really blessed me with him. And then for the next few years, my dad battled his cancer. And he was starting to do better. And I thought he would win the battle. But unfortunately, he did not. And he passed away in 2013. And it was a hard time, and I remember that night. And I remember getting in the car and driving to his house. And this song, 10,000 Reasons, was kind of like an anthem for our family's life that year. And when I went to get in my car to drive to his house, it was on. And I knew God was saying it's going to be okay. And that my dad was now no longer in pain. So, again, God never left me during that time. And then 2014 comes, we have our third miscarriage, and leading up to that, that was probably one of my hardest ones. I went in at 6 weeks, and they told me they couldn't see the heartbeat. And they told me it was still really early, that that we'll just come back in 3 weeks and see where everything's at then. So 3 weeks passed, and it was the longest 3 weeks ever. And I just kept praying that everything would be okay, whatever His will was with this baby, that it would be done. And 3 weeks passed, and I was driving to that doctor's appointment, and unfortunately Brennan had to work that day, so I had to go alone. And the whole way there, I was just praying, Lord, whatever your will is, may your will be done, and no matter what happens, I will still praise you. And so many songs just kept coming on that just sent over this sense of peace. I can't even explain it. Time when I wanted to go in there and I felt like my world was crumbling, I just had this sense of peace wash over me that whole car ride. And as I was waiting for the doctor to come in, and when she told me that she again did not see the heartbeat, as hard as it was and as broken as my heart was, I knew that God would continue to be there, and I would continue to praise Him no matter what. And again in 2015 we had our fourth miscarriage, and it's so hard to keep going through this over and over again, but I know that no matter what, God has a bigger purpose than we'll ever understand in this lifetime. And so through all these trials, I know that God has made His presence known to me, and He'll continue to make His presence known. And He's always been there for me. And sometimes I just feel like, you know, when you have a child and they're hurting, and you just want to scoop them up in your arms and hold them. God does that for you. when you're hurting. And he'll scoop you up, and you could just sit there and cry. And you don't even have to say anything, he knows. And he'll always be there for you. And all these trials in my life, I don't understand them all. I don't understand why I was given all these heart problems. I don't understand why I've lost all these babies. I don't understand why I lost my dad and my grandmother, and I don't understand a lot of it. But I know that God has a bigger purpose in all this, and my prayer for my life is that God will use me in whatever capacity that He would, and that He needs to, so that others may come to know Him. And one of my favorite songs that I heard as I was driving to the hospital that day alone was Oceans by Hillsong United. And some of the lyrics really spoke to me. And it says, "Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters, wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Oh Jesus, you are my God. I will call upon your name, keep my eyes above the waves. My soul will rest in your embrace. I am yours, and you are mine." You know, when I was a baby, my family, they all prayed that the hole in my heart would close up. And they continued to pray, "Please, Lord, just let the hole in her heart close up and let her be okay." But the doctors told my family, had that hole closed up, I would not be here today. So I know that God answers prayers, maybe not in the way that we want Him to, but everything's going to be okay. And He will never leave you. He is always there.